Assalamu alaikum. Real Madrid won and Juventus nil, and we are through to the quarterfinal. This is going to be my first ever match review. I know that I said I won't be speaking about Real Madrid's season until it's over, but it wouldn't hurt to talk about this game and the next game and possibly the semifinals, hopefully. But yeah, if you guys haven't watched the game today, Real Madrid beat Juventus and are now through to the quarterfinal. Was it an easy game? It was not. Was it a scary game? Yes. Was it comfortable for Real Madrid? No. You could just tell. You can just tell by the results. It's 1-0. And a lot of people online would like to say that this game was not a good game for Real Madrid. You know, even though to some extent that is true, it doesn't mean that it was a horrible game. Because during that second half and kind of in the beginning of the first half, Real Madrid were doing good. Juventus is a tough group and smart tactics all around, and they were able to stop a lot of the plays. The goalie was incredible, stopping the long shots. And yeah, all around it was a tough battle, and Real Madrid managed to go through with Gonzalo's header that, thankfully got us through. And in this matchup, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about kind of what went wrong and what went right. I took notes just in case I forget about some of the things. But something that I won't forget is whenever Vinny gets the ball, right? And I love Vinny. As of right now, he's my favorite player. And whenever he gets the ball, I just don't enjoy the fact that he holds the ball for way too long. And what I mean by that is that, I listed this as my second thing, is that Fran Garcia makes incredible runs or overlapping, and Vinny still does not pass him the ball. I'm not sure if the tactic is for Fran Garcia to bait the other defender. However, I don't know if you guys noticed in the past and the other games, even throughout the last season, defenders don't fall for that bait. And because Vinny does not pass the ball to Fran Garcia. So if Vinny does not pass the ball to Fran Garcia, why should the defenders get baited? And it's pretty obvious if you look back at the game and the game before that, whenever Fran Garcia makes a run pass by Vinny, he is not getting the ball from Vinny. Unless Vinny only passes it when he's ready to make a run. When he's high up in the field, he passes it to Vinny. But when you're down attacking, Fran Garcia does not smell the ball from Vinny. And obviously, Fran Garcia is not an attacker. However, if Fran Garcia is open and you have an opportunity to make a clear pass, I believe that pass has to go through. Because Fran Garcia then has options to cross the ball. He has options to pass it back to Vinny, which we saw him often. He has an option to try to get the ball across to somebody in the middle of the box. So yeah, that's something that I don't like, is when Vinny holds the ball for way too long, and then that gives time for defenders and the midfielders all to get back into position. So that's one of the bad things that kind of happened in the first half, with Fran Garcia making these unnecessary runs just because Vinny does not pass him the ball. The way the first half was played reminded me of Ancelotti ball. And what I mean by that is that we would try to attack from the wings and then bring it back and switch to the other wing and then bring it back and then switch to the other wing. And I saw them so much in the first half, and that annoyed me because that is something that I genuinely did not like. There was not enough of attacking from the middle. And especially when they start switching the ball, right? When you switch from one wing, bring it all the way back to the other wing, and then bring it all the way, they're not even moving fast. And that gives time for the entire opposing team to start shifting with the ball. It gives them time to build that momentum. It gives them time to read the plays, right? And yeah, Real Madrid barely got any chances, and that was just, I just didn't like that. And generally speaking, the only time we posed threats in the first half was only through those long shots by Valverde, I remember, and who else? Poison, I believe it was the second half though. But yeah, that was kind of the only time we posed threats. Other than that, there was no threats inside the box. Maybe once or twice, but not crazy threats where it was a one-on-one. But Juventus had those chances, and it was pretty scary, but Real Madrid did not. And that's kind of what we get for not playing the ball properly. When you try to just switch from one wing to another, it just doesn't pose a lot of threats. You have to play down the middle at some points, right? And something that was a real issue was that there was no proper structure when we were defending. And I'm talking specifically about counterattacks, because once, for example, there's a play where a Juventus player passed it back and kind of spun and tried to make a run, and he was wide open because to me, it looked like the defender, I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Rudiger or if it was Chouameni, but it was like they were sleeping, and he just passed by, and then that was an open ball, open through ball, and he was open. And thank God that he missed the chip. Otherwise, we would have suffered early, right? Defenders, and not even defenders, even Real Madrid players, all in general, you have to stay awake at all times, because if you get caught once while you're slacking, it's over. That could cost the game, right? And like Real Madrid players, I've noticed this a lot, is once their player gives the ball away or passes the ball, they kind of shut down their body, and then they're not quick enough to react because they're not ready for that run. And I'm not saying all the time. I'm saying, some of the times. But if you look at, for example, Rafinha, I love the dude. Once his player passes the ball, he continues to press. No matter what, he is going to press. And I'm not saying all the Real Madrid players got to press, but what I'm saying is that they have to try and read the passes and read the plays, because you can't just say, okay, this is my man and that's it. That is my man. No, like at some point you are going to have to support and maybe cut passes when the other player gets the ball. And that's something that I don't see often from Real Madrid. In the first half, I know Gonzalo García scored us the winner, but in the first half, he was really not doing anything. He barely touched the ball. I think he was the one in the field that barely got the ball. And yeah, he was not doing anything. He was just waiting for the ball. And he's young. He's still inexperienced. But, Gonzalo, you kind of have to make a statement if you want to stay in this team, right? Because Real Madrid is so quick to let you go. And, if you don't impress quickly, you are going to get let go of, besides probably Hazard. But yeah, other than that, Garcia, he still, won us the game. And I'm pretty happy about that. I'm happy that Garcia won us the game and kind of made up for all the other slacks that he had in the first half. And this is one of the key points. Alexander Trent will get the ball so often in the right side, but had no support. The only option for him is to cross the ball, but there's nobody in the box. And I just wish that whoever was playing on that right side stay with him on that right side, where he could make runs and he could make overlaps. He could have somebody to pass it to instead of just crossing it or trying to make his own play. Trent was so often just left alone on the right side, and it is not a good thing, because when you're playing, remember last season, Ancelotti, Paul, right? You have three left wingers playing forwards. You had Vini, Rodrigo, and Mbappé, and then you'd see them shift to the left side. And kind of today, you see that shift. It is on the left side. And Trent was over there all by himself, even waiting to get the ball. And even when he got the ball, like I said, he had nobody to cross it to. So that created a huge issue. You had to stay. I feel like Real Madrid has to focus on staying even on the field to separate those defenders and those midfielders to open up runs, open up plays, and open up opportunities that could pose a threat and kind of ruin their game plan. But yeah, in the first half, something that was good is Dean Huijsen. He's so good at under pressure. He's so good with his passes. And like I mentioned earlier, that shot that almost went in, it almost dipped in. That Juventus, by the way, the goalkeeper is insane. Arda Güler, I don't know if you guys saw, he's been incredible, especially when he put the ball over the defender's head and kind of almost posed a threat in that position. Valverde had multiple chances, and I love his and Jude Bellingham's hustle. They always like to hustle, and I love that about them. I'm just afraid if they get injured, though. If Valverde and Bellingham keep up this pace with no rest, it could wear them out, and, it's kind of pretty dangerous if you let them keep doing that game after game after game. And I'm sure everybody could agree that it's Valverde and Bellingham doing it the most. So speaking about the second half, I do like the way Real Madrid played. And to show how Real Madrid played, I did want to show it in the lineup. So in this lineup over here, this was the lineup that also I kind of am a fan of this lineup, and for a couple of reasons. Because number one, you have three defenders, and if anybody saw my last video before this one, I did mention that in counters, if you have these three in the back, it's going to be harder to counter when you have four up in the front, and Arda, Mbappé, and Vinny are also in the front. Because remember, at some point in the game, we saw this. By the way, I'll put Mbappé here because this website doesn't have Gonzalo. But yeah, at some point, it was like this. And then Juventus did have a chance to counter, but then you have these two already in the back. And, you know, Tchouaméni is already kind of in the back, so he can make that run back. And besides only maybe one or two counters that pose a threat, I believe that this formation is really good at stopping counters. It's very, very good. But going back to the whole purpose, for the second half, what I like the most is that once there are people in the box, Trent is here to pose that threat to cross it in. Most of the time when Trent had the ball this game, nobody was in the box. And when I say nobody, I mean literally everybody was outside the box. How and who should he pass it to when he's in this position? Or when he's over here, ready to cross? And we know Alexander Trent, his crosses is insane and deadly. So something that Real Madrid players have to do is always try to attack the box. Once Trent has the ball over here, or maybe if Vinny has the ball, you need players in the box for that cross. You need players in the box. And that's how we got our first goal, because you had players in the box, and then you also had Gonzalo unmarked, just headed it straight in there. And now we're 1-0 in the second half, which was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful play. Other than that, what also went successfully is when Real Madrid were pressing while also being cautious, right? So I'm sure you guys saw last season where we got caught with so many counters. But this game showed us that Real Madrid could press, but you have to be very cautious because, like I said, if you mess up, then you could get caught on a counter, right? So what I enjoyed about it the most is that the way they played is Arda, once they were defending, it would be Bellingham and Gonzalo up here, and they would kind of play like this. This would be Real Madrid's defending formation. And I am a fan of it because you have Vinny over here to press, you have Gonzalo over here to press, and Bellingham over here to press with the support of Arda, Vinny with the support of Fran, and Valverde with the support of Gonzalo or Mbappé. Meanwhile, you still have Rudiger, Tchouaméni, and Huijsen chilling in the back and right there helping Courtois. The way they pressed in the second half caused so many threats to the point where even Juventus didn't know what to do, and they were just booting the ball. And the way I saw Juventus playing in that second half reminded me of Real Madrid last season, where they didn't know what to do when they got pressed, so they would just boot the ball. They would pass it to Courtois, Courtois would just boot the ball, and that's it. The other team has the ball. So if they kind of master this pressing, this high pressing, right? Meanwhile, these three, because they're very important, those three in the back are very, very, very important to stay in the back because we can't get caught with counters. And if we can't get caught with counters, you have all these players up in the front who could press and play cautiously. So yeah, although Real Madrid didn't win dominantly, and I feel like that's what the media looks for, they want Real Madrid to win like dominantly, just like how Barca won last year, just to put out a statement. They still got to win, and against a strong team, a well-structured team, Real Madrid still won, and now they're through to the quarterfinal. And I did enjoy watching that second half because that first half was something different. Not something different. It was something that we've seen before, but something bad. We don't want to see it again. Xabi Alonso, I feel like, still has work to do. This team is not fully structured. I feel like they still have some muscle memory from last season that they got to get rid of. You know, new tactics. Like I said, I feel like the high pressing, not too high, but when you have your forwards pressing and when you have your midfielders pressing with the support of one another and consciously, there's no team that could play under that Real Madrid pressure. There's no team that could handle that. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Real Madrid deserved this win? Do you think they got lucky? Do you think that Juventus got robbed? You know, because I don't know how people thought that was a penalty at the end, but it really was not a penalty. But yeah, if there's anybody watching, make sure you leave a comment, and I'm going to be reading them and responding to them if there's anybody. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.